Adler.
Daniel Aflito.
I love you, Daddy. I miss you a lot. Richard Anthony Acheta.
Every year on the anniversary of 9/11, America stops to mourn the men and women who were killed in the attacks.
Barbara Jean Arstegi. And my father, Jack Charles Aaron.
But behind
Joshua
the names
Todd
are the forgotten victims.
Richard Avery
On that
Arano.
day, more than 3,000 children were left without a mother or father.
Japheth Jesse Ari.
Some were only days old.
I don't remember him. I do look like him. Because I've seen pictures, and he made a beautiful child.
Others had yet to be born.
I don't have a daddy. My daddy died. My daddy is in the building, and there's a plane crash, and he died.
9/11 touched children of all ages, all religions, from every background, rich and poor. Every year, they are forced to relive the public tragedy.
Every time I see those towers come down, it's watching Daddy die every single time, over and over and over again. It's traumatic. Not many people watch their parents die on TV once, let alone every year every year on the day of.
I remember he's a really good dad.
Good job. I got it. Did you get it? A fish! I got a fish!
10 years on, the children of 9/11 let us into their world.
Oh, hey!
Hi, look. I don't know how you look. You look a mess.
Don't shoot my car.
I'll shoot theirs.
This is their story.
And what's the baby's name?
Tessa.
And he was born on September 7th.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
There he is.
Good morning, 68 degrees on this Tuesday, September 11th. Here's what's happening. It's all over but the voting. That begins in the morning at 6.
For thousands of children across America, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, began like any other school day.
Last time I seen my mom was September 11th morning. I woke up that morning sick, actually, bad tummy ache, and I told her I didn't want to go to school and I didn't want her to go to work. But she still made me get dressed and made me go to school, and she still went to work.
11-year-old Rodney Ratchford lived on a military base in Washington with his parents and 2 younger sisters. His mother, Marsha Ratchford, was an IT specialist with the US Navy. She worked at the Pentagon.
You had to have respect. She wanted to hear no ma'am, yes ma'am, stuff like that. Sweetest person in the world, but one person you don't want to have on your bad side. You want her to go to war with you, not at you. That was her.
Kaminsky, Chopper 880.
All right, Pat, we are just currently getting a look at the World Trade Center. We have something that has happened here at the World Trade Center. We noticed flame and an awful lot of smoke from one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
There was such an explosion that it made windows shake and break on the ground.
When the first tower was hit, 10-year-old Thea Trinidad was still at her home in Queens, New York.
I was supposed to be in school that day, and I had a doctor's appointment, so I stayed home from school. And I remember my mom just moving around very fast downstairs, and I kind of heard her being panicked. So I kind of went to the stairs and said, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she was on the phone.
This plane headed directly in the building. Was it
The phone rings, and it's Michael.
I thought at first it was a shadow.
He says, I'm calling to say goodbye. And I immediately said, well, where are you going?
Father of 2, Michael Trinidad, was a telecoms analyst at the World Trade Center. He was divorced from Thea's mum, but they were still friends.
And I said, well, where are you? And he says, well, I'm in the building that is on fire.
She was on the phone, and all I remember her saying is, "Michael, what are you talking about?" Like, Michael. And she was freaking out, and I was like, what's going on?
We can see severe damage even to the south side of this building, which is now beginning to make...
Thea, I looked at her, and she was sitting in the living room, and she was so scared. She just looked so small.
When she said Michael, I just automatically thought my uncle.
She was like, is it Michael, which is Uncle Michael? I'm like, no, it's your dad.
And as soon as she said that, my heart just dropped.
One thing we have yet to discuss is the people inside.
Yes. Then I remember the line cutting off and my mom, like, really losing it then. She was crying, and I remember I didn't speak. I didn't tell him, like, you know, I'm here, can I speak to you? I want to talk to you. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything.
A second explosion of some type in tower number 1.
That was a second plane that just blew?
Number 1.
Okay, we're seeing, like, it looks like some kind of sick confetti parade. There is debris flying out of that south tower.
So both of the towers of the World Trade Center are now affected.
We have used the description before, unimaginable, as we were watching what we thought was an accident.
In schools around New York, classes were interrupted to tell children the shocking news.
Another plane smashing into the other World Trade.
5-year-old Fahina Chowdhury was in her second class of the day.
We were in class, and then over the announcements, they said something about World Trade Center. And I remember, I think I even said it out loud, oh, that's where my dad works.
Mohammed Chowdhury was a waiter at the windows of the World Restaurant at the top of the World Trade Center.
I was, 5 going on 6. I didn't know what to think. I was confused. I mean, I got checked out from school. That was pretty rare. And then I go to our house, and then I see all these people. I mean, it was a school day. I mean, if we saw people, it'd be over the weekends or at night, but never in the middle of the days.
12-year-old Caitlin Langone was baffled by the news.
My first thought was, like, how does a plane hit something that's 110 stories tall? Like, that seems like, and you know, as a little kid, we don't know what terrorism is. I'd never heard of that term. It never came to my mind. I'm 12, I don't know. So I was just like, that's really bizarre. Like, that's a really bizarre accident.
Right now, we need the attention of every firefighter in New York City.
The New York City Fire Department is issuing a total recall. They need all the help they can get. They need everyone to report.
Caitlin's father, Tommy Langone, was a voluntary firefighter and NYPD rescue worker.
I knew Daddy would be there, I just didn't know how soon. There was a girl in my grade whose father worked for Cantor Fitzgerald, and as soon as she heard the news, she was very, very upset, and rightfully so, because she knew her father might be in trouble. So I went over to say, like, I'm sorry, it'll be okay. You know, like, people like my dad are coming, like, they'll help him, like, they'll get him out, like, you know, no one will leave them alone, like, they'll be okay.
An immediate evacuation of the White House has been ordered. Now, President Bush is not in town. He's down in
200 miles away at his school in Washington, Rodney Ratchford's class had just heard about the attacks on the World Trade Center.
And then you just heard boom, and the school kind of shook. Because need to remind you, like, the Pentagon was just right over the interstate from where everything was.
All right, now we're going to interrupt this coverage, bring it closer to home. We have some indication of fire and smoke at the Pentagon right now. WTOP.
You were seeing helicopters and people dropping down from the helicopters at our school to the base. You seen tanks coming up and down the road. It was blocking everything off. And for a child, I mean, when I was seeing it, it was cool. Because, I mean, you know, you're a kid and you're already liking G.I. Joes and things like that. You like soldiers, so when I'm looking at the window, I'm like, look. You know, everybody's like, look at that. Wow, you know.
This is KCDS San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, continuing coverage of a story of major dimensions, obviously. There have been 2 plane
On the
crashes
opposite
into
side of the
towers
country,
World Trade
at their
Center
home in
New York City.
California,
One in the last
the
few minutes
Burnett girls
collapsed.
had just got up with their mother.
A report of a large fire near the Pentagon.
I remember we were all getting ready for school and we were eating breakfast, and Mom was talking to him on the phone, and we were saying how we wanted to talk to him.
Medical research executive Tom Burnett was flying home that morning from a business trip to New York.
He said, I'm on Flight 93 United Airlines from Newark to San Francisco, and the plane has been hijacked. He said they're trying to get into the cockpit, and the hijackers have already knifed a guy, and he wanted me to call the authorities.
My mom was going insane. She was screaming and crying, and she was on the phone, and she was freaking out. I mean, she was so hysterical that she could barely talk.
And I remember listening and just thinking, this can't be real. This can't be happening to our family.
I remember she was running around just trying to do anything and everything. I would say that she was kind of desperate.
I started screaming at her, please let me talk to my dad. But I don't really think that she heard me because she was in hysterics.
Dina Burnett sent the girls to school. Her husband, Tom, called her 3 more times.
In Tom's last phone call, he told me not to worry, he was going to do something. I could hear the concern in his voice. And I asked if there was anything else I could do, and he said, pray, Dina, just pray. And I said, I am. And I held on to the telephone, expecting him to call back. Held on to it until the battery ran down.
Breaking news. A large plane has crashed in Western Pennsylvania. One must wonder, after all the other events of today, why this plane crashed into nothing in particular, simply crashed.
We heard a thunderous boom and crackling sound. I gazed up briefly and I saw, I believe it was the southern tower, appear to crumble and start to fall.
Just 30 minutes after the collapse of the South Tower in downtown New York, the North Tower followed.
Everyone ran. Police ran. People just took off. People ducked into doorways, and people didn't stop to look behind. And I'm in a crowd, and we are running north on Broadway. We are escaping.
The huge question is, what has happened to the people inside those buildings? How many of them had a chance to get out?
There's no words to describe that feeling. You think, this can't be real. This can't be real. I'm dreaming right now. This can't be real. He's not there right now. This is not happening.
It was so vivid. I mean, if I see pictures now, it's hard for me to process that. I mean, my dad was in that building.
Did the fire department have any warnings that they had to pull their people away from there?
Actually, we have a lot of police officers, a lot of firefighters, a lot of emergency personnel that were down there.
Daddy's partner, Randy, came to the door. Daddy always told Mommy that if something ever happened to him, the NYPD, they'd never call. They would bring somebody to the door in person. So when she saw them, she kind of, she freaked out because she knew that was a bad sign.
I must have cried for about 3 hours. And the worst part was, that's how I knew something was wrong, because the worst part was, ain't no one said nothing about my mom or nothing like that. It was just that feeling. I just knew it. I mean, I just knew it.
The Burnett girls had no inkling of their father's fate until that evening when their mother sat them down to tell them.
She said, there were some bad people on his plane and they took over it, but it's okay because your dad tried to stop them. But there wasn't enough time left, and so they crashed. He's not gonna come home, but he's with Jesus right now.
I remember feeling as though she was almost lying to us. Not saying that she's a liar, but it's something that seems so impossible to us could happen.
your family's like broken. I remember whenever the dancing stopped, really, because we stopped dancing right before bed. We stopped listening to this song. We stopped everything.
For the longest time, I thought that he had survived. For years and years and years, I would always think that he did something like he was somewhere in Pennsylvania and he was on his way home. He never came home.
Six weeks after 9/11, a joint memorial service was held for Tommy Langone and his firefighter brother Peter. They both died at the World Trade Center.
We had only pictures of Daddy and Uncle Peter because we never found them at all. It's a firefighting tradition at funerals that every fire company, they'll bring 2 rigs and they put the ladders up and hang a flag between them. So we're in our limos and we're going in a procession under all of these fire trucks that are doing that. And like Mommy's crying, Grandma Kitty's crying, like I'm just staring because I'm still in shock. When you're 12, it's a struggle to understand that you will never see Daddy ever again. You'll never hear him, you'll never touch him, you'll never see him, hug him, like anything. It's all gone forever.
Every year on Thanksgiving, the Langone family gathered to remember Tommy at their home in the suburbs of New York.
You see it, Dad? Daddy's not in this. Oh, wait, yeah, he is.
This is old.
There he is. I think that's Daddy, because I see the mustache. Here's Daddy. He's trying to, like, what he's doing, he's trying to coax the guy to come to him.
Oh, this one, this is.
Yeah, this is great. Everyone's.
A dramatic one, yeah.
So he's got his jacket up here, but his jacket comes loose, so they pull him in through the window. And then everyone's like, yay!
I think Dad, like, I was told, wrote the book on jumpers.
Oh, probably.
All of the ESU officers said it was just another day.
Tommy's body was never found, but some of his belongings were discovered in the rubble at Ground Zero.
Where they find, I mean, obviously South Tower or something, but like where and when did they find it?
I think it was like October 14th to 15th, 2001. Nighttime, I got a phone call saying they found...
So I don't know the story of how you got these.
They found Daddy's handcuffs and gun.
Well, the top of it.
And that there was some bone fragments in the area, so they thought perhaps they were going to test it to see if it was Daddy's.
Is that why we had to go to the medical examiner office?
Yes, to give the DNA or whatever. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for some other people, the bone fragments were not Daddy, but this is what... And they traced the handcuffs, actually. He had... These are his original handcuffs.
Like from the police academy?
From the police academy. They traced the number, and it went... Yeah, this was his
service revolver.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. You could see it, and like obviously since the rest of the Glock is plastic, it melted.
Yeah, so this is what was left.
Definitely corroded though. You can see like what they had to go through. It's just kind of crazy. Like, I mean, it's kind of almost disturbing looking at this because if this is what happened to the guns and stuff, like,
I know.
That's traumatic. You know, the whole thing. Like, we had to watch it over and over and over again before we knew, and then we had to watch it over and over and over again after we knew. It's hard not to be sad, but I can't change it. It's never going to change. Nothing we do will bring him back, so you just got to deal with what we have now, and what we don't have now.
Rodney Ratchford's family had no body to bury either. His mother has an honorary grave at a military cemetery in her home state of Alabama.
I feel like she's always just right there in my ear, you know? She's always just right there. I can talk to her anytime. Talk to God, talk to her, things that's on my mind, problems. Sometimes I just talk to her. Anyway, I don't have to be here, because like I said, she's not here, actually, you know? They didn't dig up a hole for her, you know? It was just, dig a hole and put her tomb there. She's not here, you know.
Just weeks after his mother's death, Rodney and his sisters were sent away from the military base to live with their father's relatives in northern Alabama.
I was mad. It was just like, forget everybody. I was just mad. And then that's when I had a big change in my life. I mean, doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to be doing, but at the same time, I didn't care. And it wasn't really like I didn't quit school neither. I mean, I did participate in all the stuff, but, you know, I got in so much trouble with fighting that they just terminated me, period, from going to the school. So ever since then, it was just upside down for me.
Rodney wasn't alone. Many children, like Thea Trinidad, were sent to therapy to try and cope with their grief.
I felt like everybody was kind of breaking down at once, and I didn't want to. And I didn't want to show emotion at all. My brother and I didn't want to have anything to do with the world at that point. Didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. We actually had to go to therapy for a little while, and I didn't open up to them. I didn't talk to anybody about anything. We were mad at the world. We didn't really know who to direct our anger to, but we were just pissed off.
I was 12. Like, that is the cusp of when you're starting to become who you are. And I lost Daddy, and Daddy was such a big part of shaping who I was. How could I not be messed up? My worst childhood fear when I was a little girl was that something would happen to one of my parents, and then it came true. So, like, how can I not be anxious, you know? So I talked with this woman for a little while, like a year or so, and then I stopped seeing her. Like, I went in one day and was like, I don't really have anything to say today. She was like, okay, I guess we're done. So that was kind of the end of that.
I'm not a low self-esteem type person. So like when that happened, it wasn't like I wanted to commit suicide or anything, you know, like my mom was going, I'm finna kill myself, I can't live no more. No, it wasn't like that with me. When I went through the counseling and stuff, she wanted to talk to me and ask me all these questions, but I hated it because I hate when a person asks me the stupid question like, how does that make you feel about your mom dying? I'm like, well, if I went and blew your mama up, how would you feel? What you mean how I feel? I'm upset. I mean, I'm without a mom.
Younger children, like the Burnett girls, were going through the same turmoil, but they didn't know how to express it.
My mom, she said I would scream in the middle of the night and she would run into my room. And she thought I would be asleep, but I would be screaming and in a corner and saying, get away from me. And I'd be screaming and crying. And that went on for about 2 years, I think. It went on for a while. I tried not to get close with her because I would be scared that she would die too. And that I would lose her. And, then I realized that she wasn't gonna go anywhere for a while. And so, we're really close now.
Madison have a fish?
Yeah! Oh, she got one here.
Yeah! To me, my dad was kind of a role model for me.
Reel it in. Oh, yeah, look at that fish fight. Oh, good job.
I got it.
Okay,
Did you get it?
No, okay, bring it.
Yeah, a fish, I got a fish.
I remember I'd say a prayer asking him to come home. I've never told anyone this before. I don't even think I've told my mom. And that one time that he didn't come home, I didn't pray. And I've secretly kind of felt a little guilty.
You've been blaming yourself.
Kind of. I guess you could say I've been blaming myself.
Oh, Madison. Oh, poor baby.
Now you see your dad, huh?
Before 9/11, the Burnetts were an ordinary family. Now, as the children of the hero of Flight 93, they found themselves thrust into the media spotlight.
Your dad was on his way home.
Mm-hmm. The bad guy got into the seat, and my daddy was trying to throw the bad guys out of the plane. But he couldn't, and it was too late, and so my daddy died.
My friends, I remember them saying, "You're famous," and I was like, not really. Because I remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning on some days and going to a news station and being on TV there and meeting Mr. Bush when I was so young.
He saved George Bush's house. My dad got up there and he took the wheel and drove into a little field. He was trying to save everybody on the airplane.
My name is Dina Burnett. My husband, Tom, was a passenger on United Airlines Flight 93.
In dealing with my grief in a very public way, I felt like I was setting an example for my children to be able to create in them a sense of pride for what their father had done and for the legacy that he had created for them.
Do something. I think those words directed the actions of all the heroes of 9/11, and they should direct ours.
Have a good day and a good life.
Sometimes it was actually pretty fun. I met the President of the United States. I mean, everybody's pretty happy to do that. It's one thing to say, my dad died in 9/11, but it's another to say my dad died as a hero in 9/11. I'm really glad that I can say that he was my dad and that I'm related to him because it was a really good thing that he did.
It still hasn't completely sunk in that my dad did something heroic on 9/11. Definitely, I admire my dad for doing that. It's just, I don't know, I can't picture in my mind of someone so ordinary doing something so extraordinary. And I think that that's why I have a hard time. It's still hard to believe to this day that he actually did make a difference.
While the Burnetts celebrated their father's memory at their new home in Alabama, Rodney Ratchford's father was overwhelmed by his grief.
I never talked to him about my mom because have you ever just had someone where you can look at them and just tell that if you was to bring up a topic or something, it wouldn't be so good, you know, or you didn't want to see them go through that emotional phase? And so I never did, you know, just bring nothing up about her.
Without his mother's guiding hand, Rodney was going off the rails.
It's just your average teenage stuff, you know, stuff that you want to do that ain't right, that you ain't supposed to be doing, drinking, smoking, you know. I mean, that was just the direction that I was going in. I was selling drugs. I mean, might get into it with gang members. I mean, trouble in that type of lifestyle, that's what's gonna come.
When life in the gang took a dangerous turn, Rodney reached crunch point.
It was just like, I see what this road is leading to. The light came on, you know? Or it was like, better yet to say, God was talking. So I just felt like if I didn't get out the game then, either I was gonna be dead or in jail. So it was pick or choose.
Doing?
I'm reading my daddy's book.
You are looking at
my daddy's
Farkhad Chowdhury will be 10 this year. His sister Fahina will be 16. Their father, Muhammad Chowdhury, was an immigrant from Bangladesh. He was one of 60 innocent Muslims who were killed on 9/11.
I was a lot angrier when I was younger. I was like, why is my dad gone? But now I've gotten to the point where it's just sad. I mean, I see Farkad without his dad and it gets hard.
Daddy was asking for a son. He always, I want a son.
Farkad never got to know his father. He was born 2 days after the attacks.
Daddy used to touch my belly and said, hey, my son, what are you doing? Are you fine? And you kicked. You kicked, and Daddy like, see, my son is listening to me. 2 or 3 years ago, he started, I want my dad. Mommy, can I have a dad?
Look at him.
And then he asked, why everybody has daddy, not me? Why I'm the only one, no daddy? Look, Mommy, can I hug him? Can I touch him? Can I kiss him?
Look at the white shorts.
Yeah. You have white shirt too, right?
Yep.
I think both you have same taste, Farkad.
He looks handsome.
He look handsome here? Yeah. Let me see. Do you look like your daddy? You look like me.
What?
Yeah. Are you upset for that?
Yeah.
You want to look like your daddy? Let me see. Eyes are same. Yeah, like your daddy.
Yeah.
But this part is like me.
Don't be silly.
Now it's just to the point where, like, little things he wants, and he'll never get that, which is so sad. I mean, I got things that he'll never get. I was young, but I have memories to hold on to. He has nothing.
My dad is in the building, the plane crashed, and he died.
Was he the only one? Was he the only one died, or other people died also?
Other people died. That's kind of sad.
The idea.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, he never got to see you, Baba.
Don't cry.
No, I'm not crying.
Here's my sniper. I really like this gun. Don't shoot my car. I'll shoot theirs.
Like Farkad Chowdhury, Justin Strada never got to know his dad. Tom Strada was a partner with a bond-broking firm at the World Trade Center.
The second grand finale. My vest. Here, I'll wear it.
I think his favorite movie is The Hurt Locker.
Yep.
He loves
The Hurt Locker?
the Army and the Marines, and he loves what they stand for, and this is his way of expressing it, and it's perfectly fine with me.
I'm just gonna kick some Iran ass.
There he is.
Justin was born 4 days before 9/11. His proud father marked the occasion.
Katie, come on over here. You filming us, Tommy?
Yeah.
Know where the button is to make it go zoom and not zoom?
Yep.
All right, well, check that out. Katie helped me build this, right? What's it called, Katie? Is it a stork? Yeah. And you look at the camera and say it's a stork?
It's a torch.
And what's the baby's name?
Justin.
And what's his nickname gonna be? JT. And he was born on September 7th.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
I don't remember him. I just sometimes ask like questions about him, and they get answered, and fine with it.
Besides Justin, Tom Strada had 2 other children. Caitlin is 14 and the eldest, Tommy, is now 17.
Yeah, you just really like to have fun.
Okay, hit that ball. Whoa! That's from the right-hand side.
I remember he really wanted me to be good at sports, and he wanted me to play baseball, and I didn't like it. And I feel like a lot of other dads would push their kids into doing it just for them, and my dad didn't make me do that.
Almost.
He was supportive of whatever I wanted to do.
Swing it once. Oh, that's good. Okay. When Daddy throws it, you hit it. You ready? Here we go. Wow!
Excellent.
Excellent shot. Say, Mommy, that was a good one, huh?
Mommy, that was a good one.
Sure was.
All right. And Mommy, do you want to pitch it to Daddy, and Daddy will hit it?
Hey. Chief. Good boy. This is Never Forget. And I named him after my daddy to never forget my daddy. He kind of reminded me of, he kind of reminded me of my dad a little bit. And I could go into his stall and tell him anything. So it was kind of like the same thing with my dad. I could tell my dad anything. Come on. Come on.
Your dad teaches you everything. I really wish that he was here to see my accomplishments and my mistakes so he could help me. It's not an easy thing when it's such a big loss.
You're gonna get a turn if you stop crying.
I remember his voice. I remember his laugh.
Okay, let it go.
I remember he'd come home at 4:15, push me on the swings. He was like my best friend. I really wish that I could have known him longer.
Katie, do you want to turn?
Yeah, bet.
Me and my mom can have heart-to-hearts, and they've gotten kind of old. They've gotten kind of like the same routine, and I really wish I could talk to my brother about it, like Thomas, but he doesn't like sharing.
I don't talk to my sister about it, and I don't really talk to my mom about it. I bottle it up, really. I bottle it up because it's the easiest way. They definitely don't understand what I'm going through. No one does. No one will. Sister's not gone through the same thing. My dad died when she was 4. She doesn't remember when she was 4. She doesn't remember. She doesn't have to live with memories of him like I do.
Okay, so the wind's blowing that way.
The wind's blowing, yeah, that way. I'll let it pick you up and fly away with you.
Like I was 7, I can remember. She doesn't have that. And neither does my brother. They don't have to deal with that, and I do.